The U.S. Navy is eyeing to complete the extraction of the USS Guardian from the Tubataha Reef by March 23rd after making some changes in its salvage operations. Paula Palma gives us an update.
The U.S. Navy has revised the plan to remove the USS Guardian from the Tubataha Reef. In the new plan, an 800-ton crane ship, the Jascon 25, will do the heavy lifting in dismantling USS Guardian. Originally, Smith-Berneo was tasked to lead the operations on February 9. Due to anchoring difficulties, the operations were temporarily halted until the arrival of the Jascon 25. The Coast Guard says it is important to remove the USS Guardian immediately to stop damage to the reef. But the instability of Smith-Berneo may worsen the damage as torrents of waves may cause the vessel to hit the reef as well.
Pag-drop ng dalawang anchor, may cable naman yan eh. Ito sa Borneo, cable ang ginamit niya, hindi chain. Diba? Pagkatapos po forward yung barko hanggang malapit, naka-hold yung anchor. Kaya kahit itulak siya ng wave papunta ron sa naka-hold siya. O ngayon, since hindi nga nag-bite yung isa, they are worried na pag tinulak, baka kasi nga hindi naka-bite yung dalawa. Tumama dun sa reef.
The Jascon 25 left Singapore over the weekend. It is expected to arrive on February 15 to 16 at the Tubataha Reef to commence operations. Unlike the Smith-Berneo, the Jascon 25 does not have to anchor due to its dynamic positioning system. Both the Smith-Berneo and the Jascon 25 were requested at the same time, although negotiations for the Jascon 25 took longer as it was more expensive. Once the Jascon 25 arrives, it will immediately start dismantling the USS Guardian, while the Smith-Berneo will simultaneously conduct small boat operations. Other vessels that will assist in the salvaging operations include the Trabajador, a tug-towing barge, the Intrepid, a handling barge, the Archontide, a tug-towing barge for anchor handling, the barge 7000, which will collect hull segments, and the U.S. Navy salvage TARS, a support vessel. The Philippine Coast Guard vessel BRP Corredor and the Philippine Navy ship BRP Esmael Lumibao will monitor and assist operations. The USS Guardian has so far inflicted about 4,000 square meters of damage to the reef. Damage to the reef will be determined once a U.S. Navy vessel has been removed. Isorena says extraction operations will most probably add another 20 to 30% of damage to the reef once completed. Although he says dividing the vessel into segments will help minimize the negative effect on the reef. Aside from the monetary compensation, Isorena says the U.S. government will also provide long-term assistance to the Tubataha board, including the donation of equipment to help maintain the reef. The extraction of the USS Guardian is scheduled to be completed by March 23, barring inclement weather. Paula Palma, Solar News.
An environmental economist says fines imposed on damages to local reefs should be raised, saying the current rate is relatively low compared to what other countries are imposing. This follows the grounding of the USS Guardian, which has damaged some 4,000 square meters of the Tubataha Reef. At present, the government is imposing a 12,000 peso fine for damage costs and another 12,000 pesos for restoration costs. Rina Rosales says this is low compared to fines imposed by other countries. Australia imposes a fine of $733 or 27,854 pesos per square meter for the grounding of a vessel on the Great Barrier Reef. She says the Philippine government should base its fines on the economic value of the reefs and also take into account inflation rates. The Catholic Church reminds the faithful about the importance of observing Ash Wednesday today to mark the beginning of the Lenten season. Kimberly Gott tells us more.
Ash Wednesday signifies the start of Lent and is celebrated 40 days before Easter Sunday. This signifies the 40 days Jesus spent in the desert fasting to prepare himself for the task God has given him. For Filipinos, attending Mass on Ash Wednesday has become a religious and even cultural tradition.
I attend Ash Wednesday because it's been our ritual every Ash Wednesday and Wednesday, me and my family since I was a kid. And I think this is my way of giving back to the community, especially as a Catholic.
Nakaugalian ko na. So ever since I was a kid, my parents always takes me to church, and every celebration that the Catholic Church celebrates, we also celebrate. This is very important because this is the time that we commemorate the start of Christ's suffering.
But to others, it also signifies the renewal of faith in the Lord.
It means growth in my relationship with the Lord and the church. It means growth in my relationship with other people also. And as a person, it really helps me a lot.
Vice Rector of the EDSA Shrine Church, Father Benjamin Deogracias Fajota says, not all understand the real meaning of Ash Wednesday or Lent, which is why the celebration of Mass has evolved into the application of ashes on the forehead after the homily to invite more parishioners to attend the whole Mass.
They must realize that the ashes do not tell or do not show that they are very holy, that they are in line with the church prescription. But this is for us to realize that we all need conversion, that the crosses on our foreheads must show that we are all sinners, that we need God's compassion and mercy.
Ash Wednesday signifies the start of Lent and the start of the yearly call for conversion, almsgiving, and fasting and prayer. The Catholic Bishops' Conference of the Philippines reminds the faithful that the sacrifice of fasting and abstinence from meat should start on Ash Wednesday. Luis Antonio Cardinal Tagle says these three disciplines should not be misinterpreted.
Yung iba tuwan-tuwa fasting kasi talaga namang nagre-reduce. Hindi ho yata ganoon yung hindi lang ito para ma-reduce at para magkasya muli yung mga dating damit. Hindi po itong fasting na ito ay talagang may elemento ng pagdidisiplina sa sarili.
As the season of the hearts, Fajota quotes a priest who says Lent is a season of 3 F's, a season for forgiveness, freedom, and festivity.
We ask God for the forgiveness of our sins, and we also forgive others. Then freedom from want, freedom from so much desires, and freedom from poverty. So we are one with our poorer brothers and sisters, and festivity, we celebrate the cross of Christ.
With this, Father Fajota invites the public to attend Mass to be able to learn the true meaning of faith and the celebration of Lent. Kimberly Go, Solar News.
While some expressed hope that Pope Benedict's successor will be a Filipino, some church leaders say an Asian cardinal has a slim chance of becoming the next pontiff. Father Romeo Intengan, former Jesuit Philippine Provincial Superior, explains Catholic Christians in Asia are a minority, except in the Philippines and East Timor. Intengan adds Manila Archbishop Luis Antonio Cardinal Tagle is still considered a junior in the hierarchy, having been appointed to the Archdiocese of Manila only last year. Intengan notes cardinals may find it disquieting should Tagle be elected as Pope, as it will mean a very long reign at the Vatican. Pope Benedict XVI will step down from the papacy on February 28th. Former First Gentleman Mike Arroyo appeared before the Sandigan Bayan this morning to submit a compliance report which details his 7-day trip to Japan and Hong Kong. Arroyo's legal counsel says a bail and travel bond worth 120,000 pesos was paid to authorize Mr. Arroyo's travel. The former First Gentleman went to Japan on February 3rd to meet with Filipino communities there before proceeding to Hong Kong for a business meeting. Mr. Arroyo is facing graft charges at the Sandigan Bayan in connection with the botched NBN ZTE deal and the allegedly anomalous PNP chopper deal. When we come back, the International Olympic Committee recommends the removal of wrestling from the 2020 Olympic Games. More news when we return. Stay with us. Millions of Americans were glued to their TVs to witness U.S. President Barack Obama's State of the Union address, his first since being re-elected to the White House. He earned rounds of applause from Congress for his proposals to address the budget deficit, climate change, terrorism, and international security. Obama has also taken pride in the return of some 34,000 troops from Afghanistan next year, as well as his plan to work with Russia to reduce global nuclear stockpiles. Obama called on lawmakers to place the nation's interest before their parties. In the Vatican, Catholics eagerly await Pope Benedict XVI's first public appearance at St. Peter's Square 2 days after his shocking announcement of his resignation. The Pope is expected to hold his weekly general audience, followed by a Mass for Ash Wednesday, which will be his final Mass before leaving the papacy. Organizers scrambled to switch venues from the Vatican's audience hall to St. Peter's Square to allow hundreds of thousands to see the Pope for his last Eucharistic celebration. The Pope announced his resignation on Monday, citing old age and his deteriorating health. Meantime, in India, a radical Hindu group is shunning Valentine's Day festivities and is condemning those celebrating the holiday. The Shiv Sena has issued a circular against any form of celebration of Valentine's Day, which it says is an indecent form of Western intrusion into the Indian culture. In Lucknow City, students and teachers took to the streets and urged everyone to celebrate Valentine's Day as a family and marriage solidarity day. The International Olympic Committee has recommended the removal of wrestling from the 2020 Olympic Games after evaluating the performance of all 26 sports at the London Games. This means wrestling will have to compete with 7 other sports, including baseball and softball, martial arts, and squash, for one available spot in the 2020 Olympics. The IOC explains the move aims to revamp the Olympics program, saying it was not about what was wrong with the sport, but what was best for the Games. A final decision will be made in September, when the IOC will also choose whether Istanbul, Tokyo, or Madrid will host the 2020 Olympics. David Beckham arrived at the Mestalla Stadium to watch his new team, French club PSG, face Valencia. Beckham watched in the stands as PSG conceded a late goal and had Zlatan Ibrahimovic sent off in added time in a 2-1 win in their Champions League game. He will fly back to Paris with the team for his first training session. He may play for the first time when PSG takes on arch-rivals Olympique de Marseille on February 24th. Health news now. A new study showed women who took extra folic acid before and after pregnancy were less likely to have a child with autism. Researchers explained the lack of folic acid was tied to brain and spinal cord defects. They advise women who are planning to have a baby to start taking their daily dose of folic acid and vitamin B.